What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Higher Purpose Podcast, episode 13, live from the Legacy Fitness Club. I'm Chris Wortman here alongside
Brennan Feta. How we doing, gang? Lucky number 13.
Yes, we've made it to 13 whole episodes. What an accomplishment, right?
What an accomplishment.
I was thinking about it the other day. I was looking back on 2021 and I was like, a lot of dreams were accomplished, but I was like, we're on a podcast too. We started a podcast. That's sick.
Yeah, dude, no,
that was always a dream of mine, and this is super cool that we're doing this.
I know, there's been so much craziness happening in life that it's kind of been on, it can sometimes seem like it's on the back burner, but it's just we've still been consistent with it.
Absolutely.
We definitely made the most of it, bro. And then obviously so many more topics and things to discuss, but we haven't even broken from the whatever that phrase is, we haven't made a dent yet or something.
No,
yeah.
the topics are really endless, and we have a lot of guests that have been coming to mind for me, friends of mine that I'm like, wow, we should really have it on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And topics that we can cover. As always, we'd love to hear from you guys if there's anything people want to hear in particular. We'd be more than happy to talk about it. Ugh, speaking of talking. But let's introduce today's podcast topic, which is going to be running marathons.
Yeah, running marathons.
So I don't know if all of our viewers know, but Brandon actually has ran a marathon before.
Yeah, I did.
He's crazy like that.
I did run a marathon. This is in August. It was the Sri Chinmoy Marathon. It was Sri Chinmoy was this Indian runner, and it's this very spiritual race, and we can get into how I found it and the conditions of that race. But it was the first marathon I've ever done. It was gruesome. It was a long journey to do it, but it was wild, and I learned so much about the process just from experiencing it firsthand. Really, it's one of those things that you can do your research but until you're training and you're in it, you're gonna learn a lot just from doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Take us back to when did running become a hobby? Where did this all stem from? So
Sure.
Was running a hobby for you prior? Was it a goal that you always had? Was this a dream?
I'll take it back from the beginning, man. So pretty much my dad has always been really big into endurance type. My dad's been an incredible athlete. So my dad was a professional soccer player in Germany in his 20s, and he's just been an insane athlete. But so as I've been growing up, my dad he's been a great role model watching him exercise, and he brought exercise and working out super commonplace in my family. Vacations, we're always going on runs, always working out, watching him run, swim, cycle, playing tennis as I was growing up. It was super normal. And so it's funny, I was thinking about it. So running from a young age, I would go on runs with my dad, and so would my sister. And on a vacation, we had a condo in Cocoa Beach. And I just remember doing this very vividly. I was younger, probably 9, 10, somewhere in there. And 2.5 miles from where we would set up on the beach was a pier. And it was always, my dad would always go on these runs to the pier and back. So it was always 5-mile runs. And I just remember being a little kid and trying to get to the pier with my dad and keep up with him, and I never could. And every single time I went on vacation, I would give it a shot, and I never thought I would be able to actually make it to the pier. First off, just the pier, so 2.5 miles continuously running, let alone back. One time I finally did it. I finally did it, and I just remember this sense of joy and accomplishment that had happened from finally making it to this pier.
It's on the beach.
On the beach,
yeah. That's not an easy task. Right?
Yeah.
On the beach is a little bit harder.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it's the best place to run for sure, because the sand isn't too powdery. You have some footing there, but I just remember on vacation always trying to hit that when I was younger. But I digress with that specific example. Coming home, living at home growing up, I would go on runs. just like around the neighborhoods and then eventually through the as I would like venture out a little bit more, I'd run from my house through like some trails in the Pine Bush Preserve, which have some awesome running trails. I'd run to DiCaprio Park, which would be like 5 miles. So like running was always, I always would just kind of run, not necessarily super consistently, but if I wanted to get a workout or get some exercise, I would go on a run. But so what happened with really getting to running seriously, I was living in Atlanta and COVID happened.
Okay.
And so my gym closed in Atlanta. So the only thing I was doing for working out was I had a pull-up and chin-up bar in my little apartment. I would just do push-ups, a lot of core stuff, and I would go to the park, Piedmont Park, which is like the central park of Atlanta, essentially. And I just started running because the gyms were closed, and I had to adapt somehow because I wasn't not going to exercise. Like exercise is just, I've always had to exercise. And so I would just run, and then I just like push the limits a little bit, and I eventually made it in Atlanta. I made it to 15 miles. Wow. I ran 15 miles.
Just for leisure.
Just for exercise. Right. Yeah, just for exercise. I remember listening to, I still wasn't really listening to like podcasts or audiobooks then. I was listening, I think that those specific times I listened to like Big Booty Mix, like one, two, or two of them at a time or something. Each one's like an hour long. But so I made it to 15 miles, and I was like, well, first up, when I did a half, I was like, holy shit, like I did a half marathon, 13 miles. Right. And then I was like, can I do more? And I pushed it, and I hit 15 miles. And I was like...
What made you decide to stop at 15? Was that you were like, that's a nice number, I'm hungry, I'm tired?
By the time you hit... So at 15, this is getting boring, running for hours.
Yeah.
So, dude, so 15 miles, at that point, I was not including any nutrition like protocol at all with the running. This is like coming off of like just a average day of eating, and actually it's probably less than average because when I was in Atlanta, I was experimenting with all kinds of stupid shit to like lose weight. Like I was doing keto in Atlanta, so I didn't even have any carbs, and I was running up to fucking 15 miles with no energy, nothing. I actually ended up
You ended up in the hospital at that.
No, I ended up actually
ketoacidosis.
I ended up actually hurting my knee. I got runner's knee actually from running so much, so I stopped. But when I finally hit the 15, I was like, if I can do 15, I can definitely do a marathon.
Yeah, absolutely. At that point, I would have been.
Yeah, exactly. So I downloaded this app to follow, and of course, like, as soon as I started to train for the marathon, after I hit the 15, my knee was just really bad with runner's knee, and like it was really painful to run actually. So I had to stop running for like 3 or 4 months there.
Really?
For a long
What's
time.
runner? Is that like a tendonitis?
Yeah, exactly. It's like patellar tendonitis. It's really brutal. Like it can be really brutal. It was super. It was just. Yeah, it was tough. I actually had it in both knees, so I had to stop running for a while there. It took a lot of time off, but yeah, thinking back, dude, from what I learned so much about the nutrition aspects that you include when you're training for a marathon, it's like unbelievable to me that I was able to make it 15 miles without even eating carbs,
right.
Let alone any of the other type of nutrition, like stuff that is marathoners included in endurance, long distance athletes include in their training and everything. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
So after that, you were saying downloaded an app?
Yeah. I downloaded this app. So there's like these, there's like Nike apps that help with marathons. The one I downloaded was Run with Hal. It's like you pay for like a month. You put like the date of when the marathon is, and it gives you like training protocol for how many, how many miles to run each day.
Because it kind of like pyramids you, right? Like it's like a periodization thing. It's not
exactly. Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna run a little bit more every single day until I feel good with running.
Yeah.
Like it's.
There's definitely a periodization with it, and it's actually funny because, you start off. So usually you have 1 day a week that's like your very like long run. So I would always put my long run on like a Sunday or something because I was like working and stuff during the week. And then throughout the week, it's usually like probably like maybe depends on the week, but usually like 3 to 4 days a week is when you're actually running. Sunday was my long run, and then as you get closer to the marathon, what they actually suggest, and I learned, I didn't know this, is within like 2 weeks of it, a week or two, you actually start tapering off your long runs. So you get to your longest run, like training for a marathon, the longest run I ever did was 20 miles. And that was maybe, well, I condensed training for my marathon into a very quick time, like 6 weeks or something. But like most people take months to train,
right.
And like so it would have been like maybe 3 weeks out that I would have hit like that 23, probably 3 weeks, and then taper off. And because the science behind that is actually that your fitness will go down by not like progressing each time, but you're going to be so much more recovered and not have as much fatigue. So even though your fitness, your cardio, like vascular fitness may be down, since you're recovered and you're not nearly as fatigued, it's as if you've reclaimed that fitness, and it ends up helping you in the long run, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's the fatigue like after something like a 20-mile run? Like, are you feeling pretty beat up the next day, or?
Dude, so yeah, I mean the first time I hit 18 to 20 miles. So this is the thing too that's super funny, because I said to Chris earlier, and I was telling a lot of people this at the time. I was like, yeah, I decided to do my real marathon much later on after I had done that 15 initially. It was like maybe like a year or something. It wasn't like directly after. Obviously I had my injuries and things happened, but it's funny for me to think about saying like, oh, I did 15, now I can do a marathon, because there is such a fucking big difference between 15 miles and 26.2. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's just such a huge gap. But yeah, dude, running after, like, obviously it depends, like, how, like anything, it becomes a skill. You get better at it. It gets easier to have that wear and tear, but... And you have, like, depending on, like, how much rest you're getting, there's so much factors. But, yeah, after running 18 to 20 miles, like, you're pretty banged up. At least I was. Like, I was pretty banged up. Is that in your
legs? Where are you feeling? In your arms, even?
Yeah, yeah, dude, definitely, actually thinking about it, definitely your legs. Even my upper back, actually thinking about it, from like when you're doing that motion for so long, and my arms would get like stuck here, and I'd have to like let my arms hang down a little bit. So your upper back, my hips are also, I've had issues with my hips, so my hips absolutely like screaming after those long runs. I know I'm making it sound like terrible, but there's obviously a reason why I wanted to sign up for a marathon. I genuinely...
There's a reason that not everybody runs a marathon too. If it was easy, we wouldn't be talking about it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, so it depends obviously like on so many different variables as to like how like the aftermath is of running that much, but like it can be gruesome. Yeah, you can be in like pretty laid up for like 2-3 days, like a while.
Right.
Like, we're not trying
and
to
I remember
anything.
You weight trained pretty much consistently up to it too.
Yeah, I was lifting about 3 days a week while I was also training.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I was doing the push-pull legs. Yeah, because this other time we were in the garage. I was doing 3 days a week, strength training. But it's also interesting because at this time, it's such a long learning process, because why the marathon also worked well for me at the time was because I was like, well, I'm trying to like lose fat right now. Like, I'm trying to lose weight. So this will be cool because I'll increase my runs. Like I'll do more cardio by running, but so like, and I'll just mix in the marathon. But then you have to figure out this balance between because you're gonna have to fuel yourself with more calories and able to run, but then you're thinking like, why am I eating more if I'm trying to lose weight? So like, it was this like battle initially in my head of like trying to find the balance, and then I was like, well, all right, so what am I doing here? Am I trying to lose weight? Am I going for performance here? Like, I had to figure out this balance of like what was like an adequate amount of calories I could have while
Because
still.
if you're low I mean, that's gonna make you suffer even harder.
Yeah.
Recovery go down.
Absolutely. I mean, and dude, as obviously this is my first time experimenting, figuring shit out. Like, you saw me like trying to like deadlift. My deadlift was so bad. Like, I had no energy
No
at all.
strength, yeah.
No, I was
Depleted,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was depleted as hell trying to like deadlift. I could hardly
like 300
get.
pounds. Yeah, 315 was.
It was a struggle for sure. So, yeah, there was just so many different things, and I was joking with Chris before. I literally had to type out some of the nutrition stuff that like I ended up having to learn about and include in my running, because there's so many different things that I had to learn to integrate and add in order to do the marathon.
Right.
And I'll just run through essentially how I trained and like what what I had to learn to include and able to do it successfully. So first off, I got this handheld water bottle. So I would only use the handheld water bottle and fill it with like pre-workout if I was 8 miles or less. So I would run 8 miles or less, I would just have this handheld water bottle. 8 miles and up, I got this like Camelback type backpack. That first I would just do water and then the handheld water bottle together. But then I ended up getting this good shout out Jake Morello. I got a G1M Sport, which is a Bear performance supplement that's essentially, and I did write this to even remember it, it's a cluster dextrin, so it's like the carb load, so it carb loads your muscles with glycogen, and that's what you utilize for energy. So I would throw that in my pack, have my pre-workout water bottle, and then as I started learning more and more and getting later and later to the races, I would take salt pills every hour, 2 salt pills every hour, because that would
Do you know
stop.
how many grams that was?
Damn it!
I'm sorry.
It's a great question. Fuck, on the top of my head, I do not remember, but I remember I had my reason at the time. It's been a while since I've had to use them. But
you're replacing electrolytes. So
yeah,
you need that.
Exactly. So I'd replace the electrolytes with the salt pills, and also it'd stop cramping. So I'd take those every hour. I would take and then I would take energy gels or energy gummies every hour as well on top of it, which would also have carbs and caffeine sources like in there to just keep on going. So yeah, it was pretty extreme learning like how to fuel yourself properly like for like this type of long race.
Right.
And then it was funny, actually the race itself, they were passing around seaweed. They were passing around seaweed because it has so much sodium in it for people to have.
Suck on?
Yeah, like you'd eat it. And I tried it, I was passing around, and it was dog shit. It tasted so bad. I was like, this is disgusting.
Now,
but yeah.
I don't know how much water was in like your Camelback. Like, would you pack?
I think it was.
And did you wear it during the marathon?
So that's a great question. So I think it was around 1 to 2 liters of water.
So 1 to 2 liters is still. A liter is going to be about 2 pounds. And
Yeah.
2 liters are about. So you're adding some weight too to like carry it. Like that's.
Yeah, so you're adding
almost like a weighted vest.
Yeah, it wasn't like nothing crazy.
I know it's not extreme, but if you're looking for those little details,
sure,
performance-wise,
that
you were looking to survive.
Yeah, no, I was going to survive. These are all good questions. The pack. So I didn't really know, since I'd never done a marathon, whether I was going to use the pack or not. So I brought it. This is fun. This is just kind of the shitstorm that this marathon ended up being, and we'll get into all of that later. But when I got to the hotel, I went to fill up my pack, and I think it had maybe been, because remember I said I was tapered off those long runs a little bit the last 2 weeks. Well, it was filled with mold. My pack was filled with mold.
The cluster dextrin grew some bacteria.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It grew some bacteria. I tried to initially still do it, and then I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing this. No. This is disgusting. The pack was filled with mold. I found out the morning of like the marathon trying to check it in. So this is a shitstorm. Like I said, this is my first one figuring things out. So did not end up using the pack of the caustic
I wouldn't have done it either.
The morning of, also, what else also happened on this marathon? So just like to rewind a little bit, getting ready for the marathon. So I was kind of just like I was on a warpath during this time in my life. So the whole, and I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit. The reason why I decided to do the marathon was, one, I had just read the book Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And you cannot read that book and not be fired up to change your life. As soon as I read that book, I signed up for the marathon because it was something that I wanted to always do, like I said, when I was in Atlanta and I ran the 15 miles. But so fast forward about a year and a half. It was about a year and a half since I had run that 15 miles. So, but the marathon, and that was when I initially wanted to. Right. So it was still in the back of my head that I always wanted to run the marathon. And then I read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and I knew I was signed up for that marathon. And I've said this over and over that like no matter what, I was going to crawl to the end of the finish line because I was so hyped up from that book, reading the book, and then I would train those long distance runs with by listening to the audiobook. But so I ended up signing up for the marathon, but I also signed up for a triathlon, which was my first ever triathlon that I did on 2 days before the marathon. So I did the triathlon, my first triathlon, which was only a sprint triathlon. So it was half mile swim, 18-mile bike, 3 5K run. So it wasn't anything crazy, but that was 2 days before the marathon. So I was already a little bit sore going into the marathon, and then I actually got a little bit run down and wasn't feeling very good. Like I got like a little bit sick from the triathlon. So I went into the marathon day feeling kind of shitty, not great. It also happened to be, I don't know if anyone remembers, but Hurricane Henry was going on at the time. And this marathon was in downstate New York. We didn't know whether the marathon was going to happen, honestly, like 24 hours in advance. Like it was a fucking hurricane happening in downstate New York. We kept calling because it was in a park to see if it was going to be on or not. And they didn't have an answer either. So we were like, we're going to make this trip. And I was like, I've been training for this marathon. Like I'm fucking going rain or shine. Well, me and my parents, God bless them, they're troopers, drove down in... You couldn't see the road, dude. It was it was fucking downpouring on the highway trying to get there. Like, it was a scary situation on the road trying to get there. We get to this park the next day. It is still Hurricane Henry. Like, it is literally coming fucking down. Buckets of water. You can't see in front of you. Only a third of the people in the marathon who signed up for the marathon showed up to the race. And so by the time the race started, it was still pouring. So half of the race, 13 miles of that fucking race, the first 13 miles I ran in absolutely pouring rain, buckets of water, like shoes absolutely drenched, a million pounds.
Did that inspire you more? I feel like it would have fired me up.
It was kind of one of those things that, like I just said, like I decided beforehand that I would crawl to the end of that finish line. I was so determined.
Nothing was going to stop you, yeah.
Nothing was going to stop me. So I ran the first half of it in pouring fucking rain, terrible conditions. I couldn't have my headphones on because they... so no music, nothing to listen to. That was for the entire marathon. That was because of the rain? We were allowed to, actually, which I thought we weren't going to be allowed to because certain races don't allow you to.
Really?
This one ended up allowing you to, but because it was pouring rain, I couldn't use my phone, like the screen. You couldn't get like nothing picked up.
So you had nothing?
Yeah, so I had nothing.
You had blank?
Nothing. No, nothing to listen to for 26.2 miles. Okay. And then... So it's pouring rain for the first 13 miles. By mile 11, I look down my left nipple. There was blood all over my shirt because my left nipple was chafing so much because of the rain that my shirt stuck to me, and I never had issues chafing before. And I even put on, I put Vaseline on my feet. I didn't put it on my nips. And mile 11, the first nipple's gone. And I had a white Nike dry fit on. It looked like a murder scene.
So it was just rubbing up and down?
It was just rubbing up and down in the pouring rain. Wow. It looked like a murder scene. Half of my white shirt was drenched in blood. That was mile 11. It was still raining. And then actually mile 20, I looked down and boom, again, the right one. The right one went too. My shirt literally, I'm telling you, looked like I just came off like a killing spree. Like a Michael Myers, like blood everywhere.
Is that do you know, is that common? Like, does that happen?
Yeah, no, it is super common, but like most people put Vaseline or tape their nipples. But I never had an issue.
Shit.
I never had an issue before, and I had run.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Exactly, and the thing is, I had ran 20 miles before, and a big thing about running, like to prepare for the marathon, is you're supposed to wear the same clothes that you're running the marathons, because you're supposed to do everything the same. And so I wore that shirt, and I ran 20 miles and no problems at all with chafing, but because it was fucking raining for, like, downpouring, raining for the first half of the marathon, it was just brutal. So I was feeling a little bit run down and sick from the triathlon a couple days before. I woke up that morning, my pack with my, like, carb load drink was molded. It was torrential downpouring.
Were you able to get any intra carbs?
So I had gummies. I had my gummies. I still have my gummies.
Don't kill me. How many grams? You know. Of like carb.
I want to say 22. I think that. But my goal. This was my goal. In each square was 22 or 25. But my goal was to hit. And what I had researched was that 50 grams of carbs.
That's what we learned in school.
50 grams of carbs per hour was what I was going towards. And when I was doing this, I know I'm like forgetting shit because I hadn't done it in a while, but like I wasn't just randomly popping 2 salt pills and just randomly eating the energy chews. It was calculated. I just like haven't done it in a while. So
I would have just been eating the chews for the fun of it.
Yeah, they do taste pretty good, but dude, it was it was a shit show, dumpster fire. By mile 20, my hips, it was like I was it was like I was holding my hip and bringing it along with me for the ride at this point in time.
What's the mindset? Just get through, like one foot in front of the other, like smile.
Oh, dude, it was 100%, man. Like, I told myself that I was going to do this. I had said before, if I have to crawl to the end of it, I'm going to do it. And what I've pretty much adopted and like kind of like pride myself on a little bit is if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to fucking do it.
Right.
Because what happens is if I don't follow through on what I tell myself and say I'm going to do, like if I don't follow through on my word, then I feel like I can't trust myself in the future.
Right.
Or how do I know if when I say something, I actually mean it, or this is just going to be like bullshit? Because if you bullshit yourself once or twice, how do you really know the next time, like, I'm going to do this? Like, do you actually know if you're going to follow through? Right. Well, if you do follow through every single time, you can trust yourself that you're going to get it.
Yeah, being a man of your word to yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. So I knew, like, you have to go through so many different places in your mind. There's so many waves when you're going, it's a roller coaster. When you run that many miles, it is an absolute roller coaster. Of some miles feel like a breeze and you're cruising. and other ones it is just like the longest mile, the longest 5 minutes like in the whole world,
dragging along.
and so you just have to. I gained so much respect for endurance athletes, like I mean like Ironman type stuff, like ultra marathons. Like you have to be so mentally tough to be able to just like find your why, like when you're in the middle of it, grueling fucking pain like in your hip body part, and you're just like, when that question's like, why am I here, why am I doing this, like having those answers, dude, like is so important. Being able to like visualize, even like using like visualization is like David Goggins calls it like his cookie jar, like being able to like think about past achievements and like past times that you overcame obstacles, right, and like using that as fuel. Like you have to just go to so many different places. Maybe someone told you like you can't do this, you couldn't do this, like just finding some type of fuel and motivation when you need it, like right, turning on like your sympathetic nervous system and like finding like that will and that drive. It's truly amazing, and what I've like, and I plan on doing more marathons in the future. I know it sounds like funny because it sounded like such a brutal first experience, but I'm glad it was so brutal because especially
think about the next one. You're in Boston Park and it's sunny.
Especially, it's 70, yeah, exactly. Especially the first one.
It can't get much worse. Yeah,
exactly. 100%. And but dude, what I'm not bringing up either is the training, man. Like some of these training days when you're feeling good and you're in the zone and you're in like, you just find flow on these runs, and a runner's high is so real. It's not every time. Obviously, it's not every single time. And some days you have to find the grit and the will and the drive to just keep on your training program or just get out there because you told yourself you're gonna. But sometimes you're just in flow and your mind just goes like the coolest places. I've had some of my clearest thoughts, some of my most creative ideas have sparked up from running.
I really do think that exercise in general,
yeah,
can bring that about us.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
I feel like early in the morning, intense workouts, that's when I feel like I am most clear, I'm most creative.
Yeah.
So many amazing ideas come at 4 a.m.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely not like more so than ever for me when I go on these long distance things. And it's actually funny, I was thinking about this recently. I actually had during one of the runner's highs, I was running on the trail, the Albany Rail Trail. Yeah, that's a beautiful place, especially it's upstate New York, Albany Rail Trail. The part I start on is in Voorheesville, and just in the fall, the leaves and everything, like it's picturesque, genuinely, like it's so amazing. But I remember having this like vision when I was running one time of like, how cool would it be? Because I love traveling. I'm super, like I really just want to travel like the world, and I just had this vision of like, people always struggle about like deciding what places to go, and I thought, what a cool thing would it be to look up marathons or races in different countries and like and go specific, like deliberately to them.
Like go to Brazil and run a marathon
to do the race, but then you stay for like a month to whatever it is afterwards. But
maybe like a weekend for me.
Well, that's what other people would do. But I would hang around for a while. But that was always
like a month or two. Hanging out in Brazil, Italy, wherever. Spain.
This is
Spain would be pretty cool.
Bro, this is
Russia in the cold.
Definitely Russia's huge, bro. So I don't know. I would be willing to go anywhere, but I always thought that was such a cool thing.
Are you doing a month in China?
Bro, it depends on the spot, man. I don't know.
I wonder if he really runs on like the Great Wall.
That'd be pretty badass.
Like I did a marathon on the Great Wall of China. What about you?
That'd be pretty sick. But yeah, no, it's just like, that's just an example of just like something I've envisioned on like these long runs that have just been like super powerful and clear and just so cool. And that's just something that has always been, that gets me excited at least, is when I can just be super present and in the moment and just have these incredible moments in time that like you're totally in solitude, like you're with yourself, you're overcoming obstacles and challenges, there's no one to count on but yourself, and you're just totally secluded and isolated from like all the rest of the bullshit of the
Absolutely.
world, all the rest of the bullshit.
Such a great outlet.
Yeah, dude, it's an amazing outlet. And one even more thing that Goggins and Joe Rogan talked about on the podcast is after you do like a super long cardio session, like you're very like calm and cool. Like you don't have the energy to get like riled up. So like Goggins, like what his like example is like if his wife goes like, David, like let's go shopping or something, and like he wouldn't typically want to shop with his wife, like he'd be like, yeah, like sure, like fuck it, like, and he'll just
Almost
like go,
days,
just yeah, exactly, just kind of like go, just like sit on the side, like, cause you're just not getting too worked up about anything because you just exuded so much energy and like mental energy, physical energy, and you're just like, as my dad would say, like cool as a cucumber, man. Like you're just like, it's awesome. It's awesome. So. But yeah, dude. So running has been amazing for me, and I definitely plan on doing more marathons in the future for sure.
Yeah, we're excited to see you do it too.
Yeah, thanks,
I mean,
dude.
I can't say that I'll be joining you. I prefer my long distance walks.
Sure, hey, dude, that's no problem.
But yeah, no. So, I mean, anything else you'd like to add?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of. I don't want to waste people's time, but nope. Signed up for. I think I'm gonna do Brooklyn half in. I think it's like near Memorial Day weekend with some friends. Reached out about it, so I may do that. But other than that, no, I can't think of anything else.
Well,
man.
we'll have plenty of podcasts before then. We'll keep us updated and.
Yeah.
Well, now you know who the expert is on marathon running. It can't get much worse than Brandon's experience.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you have any questions, if you're interested in running a marathon, feel free to hit him up on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reach out. And yeah, it was amazing to hear your story. I'm really happy that we did this because even I watched Brandon prepare for this journey, for this race, and even after him, and I feel like now I got a much better insight. I could actually visualize everything that was taking place while you're preparing and while you were doing it. And it wasn't easy by any means, but it definitely has helped you grow mentally, physically. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing the story with us. And that's gonna do it for episode 13.
Let's go.
And do we have any guests next week? Or?
Not next week. We have some down the line though, some exciting guests. So it's gonna stay tuned.
No guests next week. It's just me and Brandon. We're gonna think of something crazy to talk about. As always, be well, everybody, and we will see you next time on the Higher Purpose Podcast.
Peace out, gang.
Peace.